Hello, everybody. Welcome to Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics. This is Cyrus. Today, we're talking about why I once again believe that the images produced by Brazilian EVP ITC researcher Sonia Rinaldi are legitimate. I have a couple of new examples of this phenomenon that I want to show you guys. I know some people do not believe in this type of thing no matter what you show them, and it's kind of understandable because sometimes it's just too much, or it's just too crazy for some people to accept as being a real thing. And so I understand that, but I do want to demonstrate at least why I personally believe that this is real spirit contact, actual faces of people's deceased loved ones produced through anomalous methods. Before we jump into this, you are watching Afterlife Topics, where we talk about this type of thing. A couple of quick updates. Of course, the last video was about John Adam Jackson, who very tragically has been intubated in a coma because of the virus. And when that video came out several days ago, I said there was maybe a 20 or 30% chance of him pulling through, and unfortunately that number is the same. And I was just using that figure from other similar incidences, and that turns out to actually be kind of what the odds are, according to a family member of his who has been posting updates today. So that is, still the same situation basically. So there's not, knowing how that's going to work out yet, and I'm not sure what to say. It's just I feel really heartbroken, and I will keep making content here though, because what gets me through these times in my life when I've had family members in the situation that Adam's in is I have turned a lot to the afterlife work and researching this kind of stuff. That really helped me a lot, and so maybe it'll also help other people in also similar situations, as people all over the world are in Adam's situation. Families everywhere are dealing with very similar things as what our admin Adam is going through, and what his family is going through, I should say. All right, so to continue, and also if you want to keep supporting this work, just go down, hit that subscribe button, like the video, share it if you don't think that this kind of content will get you blacklisted by friends and family for being a kook. All that definitely helps out. And also, of course, if you want to join as a patron, patreon.com/afterlife topics. I do the coaching for patrons at a certain level. We have the classes and all that good stuff. So you can sign up at the Patreon. The link is in the description. So anyway, so let's continue on to the topic, which is Sonia Rinaldi. So a lot of people have said, how does Sonia Rinaldi produce the images? Maybe she's just photoshopping them. I find that a difficult explanation because Sonia has been doing this work for about 30 plus years. Photoshop 30 plus years ago was not a adequate software. You really couldn't do much with it. I don't see Rinaldi as some kind of a computer whiz. These are very rustic experiments, and we're going to show one right now. So one of the Afterlife Topics members of our community, one of our patrons, actually, Susan, is seen here down below in the screen I have up, the screen capture, and she submitted this video to me, and this was when she went to see Rinaldi in Florida, 2019, I believe, or maybe early 2020, at some point back when people could travel and do normal things. And she basically participated in one of these experiments, hoping for her daughter to come through. But like a lot of us in the Afterlife Topics area, we're critically minded, and we tend to start off as skeptics. And so part of this, in my mind, was a bit of an investigation into how does Rinaldi produce these images? What is she doing? What are the steps? And will it produce anything for me? So this was Susan's attitude going into this. And let's observe the video real quick. So here is Susan sitting down in a room. There's a black background. There's like lighting on her face, basically. And what begins happening is they begin blowing smoke. And what they're doing basically is the spirit will manipulate images through the camera. And so the more like stuff you see, the more fragmentations, the more whatever, the more distortions in the image, the more opportunities for spirit to be able to imprint the image they have from that side onto this side. So that's why they then put up a cellophane wrap. They put this in front of the camera as well. So now you have this kind of sparkly distortion. So she stays in front of this camera, she stays in front of the cellophane wrap, I should say. Now we have more smoke coming in, more cellophane wrap, and different angles, different types of lighting, doing all this. And then the step after this is going to be to analyze the footage and go through the timeline and look for any of these anomalous images to show up. And so this is actually very standard among people who do ITC research. A lot of people I know who do ITC on a amateur level, they do similar techniques like this. Some people use images or video, I should say, of reflections in water. There's a lot of different techniques people use. So it is pretty standard with ITC experiments, what we're looking at. What is not standard is the level or the quality of the images that come through. For a lot of people, and I would say 90% of ITC images I'm not impressed by, I would say that this is like pattern recognition in a bunch of fuzz and white noise. Not necessarily the case here. So they did analyze this video, and they came up with a few examples of images that came through, at least one from that session. And here we go. Let's take a look at it right now. So as you can see, in my mind, this is definitely an image, a paranormal image. I think it goes without saying what we're looking at. You don't have to like stretch the imagination to figure out what this is an image of. Clearly, those are two pairs of eyes. You very clearly see the whites of the eyes, there's whites underneath the eyes. You can start to see the outline of a nose, and you can definitely see like eyebrows, eyelashes. Definitely see the eyelashes, black eyelashes. Definitely female or a effeminate man, but I think this is female. And it looks like it's a pseudo image. So it was one of her very high quality images trying to poke through. So I think that was pretty convincing. Now, the next thing that people complain about with Sonia Rinaldi is they say, look, probably they're just photoshopping images from people's Facebook pages, which would be evil, by the way. If for somebody to be manipulating people's feelings like that is evil, I don't believe Sonia is evil. And number two, she doesn't make any money from this work, right? So there's a lot of effort for, no payoff besides being an evil person, to manipulate grieving people. So I don't, I found it really hard to believe that she's editing Facebook images. And some of the skeptics have said, look, some of the images look like they could have been pulled off the Facebook pages of the deceased. The thing is, many of the images are not like that. So many of the images are not a known angle or a known existing photograph or image of the deceased. And so Susan illustrates this by this image of her daughter that came through. And as Susan points out, there is no image of her daughter that looks like this. That is of this angle. That's not on her Facebook. It's nowhere. So I think that is definitely some food for thought. And this is the example of the kind of high quality images that can come through the Sonia team. And it really is. It's a team that's working with her. So it's not necessarily a she's just lucky all the time. It's, to be able to produce these images, you have to have cooperation, people working with you on that side. And allegedly, the person working on her side with her is a big astral research station ran by a one and only Nikola Tesla. And so that's the narrative that is out there. And there's a lot of EVPs of Tesla talking. And one of the people working in that station is Konstantin Rodive, the EVP ITC founder. That's where we get those acronyms from. I remember at a seance, a spirit alleging to be Rodive materialized in the room, allegedly, and delivered some information to Rinaldi that, only Rinaldi would really know what it meant, because she also communicates with him on a regular basis through other techniques. And so a lot of crazy para stuff in this area. They have different fields converging together, so it's difficult to dismiss this topic. So again, this is like a pseudo result or a pseudo form, and then this is when it really works out. You get a clear image that does not exist on Facebook. You can't find it anywhere else. So I have a couple or more examples. I might have mentioned these before on this channel about Rinaldi. I'll bring them up again. I want to, of course, bring up Brenda Aller, who has a book called Bonded by Love that tells the full story, including the work done with Rinaldi. And there's a couple interesting examples from this. We'll look at the Facebook criticism. So this is Ashley, her daughter who passed away. And Ashley came through the first image through Rinaldi. And this is the one that people were criticizing because they said, look, this is obviously a Facebook photo. And on the right side, you can see an image from her Facebook that looks like it's the same angle. In my mind, this isn't so convincing that this is not real, right? Of course, someone who is a, kind of rigid skeptic, they're looking for all the reasons why it's not real. And I understand that, but at a certain point, you got to kind of give a researcher a break and consider some ways that it's not fake. And in this case, you can see both of these images. The only thing it has in common with the image on the right is that her angle of her face is the same. You know how people are when they pose for cameras. My father had the same pose with almost every photo that was ever taken of him, and besides like the candid shots I took secretly, but he always had the same pose. For some reason, he thought his angle, because he used to work in Hollywood, he used to think his angle was like this, so every single time I'd ever take a photo of him, he was like this. And he always kind of grimaced. I don't know why. Every single photo of my father. So if my father came through Rinaldi, he would be like, just like every other photo. So anyway, the angle of the face is the same, but you'll notice, number one, she looks different. She actually looks, she's only like 25 or 24 in that photo, but she looks even younger and kind of more beautiful, maybe even like 18, 19, 20. She has eyes are like bigger and brighter, and then the expression changes between both of these images. So her eyes are wide and open on the top, and then they're more narrowed on the bottom. Also, her mouth and lips are changing expression. So very difficult to Photoshop that. You have to, being able to Photoshop subtle details of expression, not so easy. And I would argue neither completely matches the expression on the right, just a tilt of the head. But if you want to say that is from Facebook, I get that. Let's look at another example, though, because this was pointed out. Again, this is all in the book Bonded by Love, if you want to read that book and get the full story. Then she wanted to post up this series of photos as an example of something that couldn't be mistaken for anything on Facebook, because there is no angle of any photo of Ashley that looks like these photos. So this was a front-on photo of her that also came through. So you can see it doesn't look like the photo on the right or apparently any other photo. Again, there's like slight changes in expression between these photos. Like, allegedly the astral world, what happens is they actually get taken on a shuttle, because people forget that the astral world is physical like this one. So a shuttle pulls up kind of like a UFO, like a hovercraft. They have all this crazy technology, and then you go inside the shuttle, and you get taken to this research station. You go inside, and I guess there was a long queue to be able to get your images scanned. There's a lot of people who want to come through this facility. But when it's your time, you get taken there, you sit down, and they put a device in front of you, and they actually scan you. And then they develop that digitally, and then their job is to get that digital image imprinted into the device that Rinaldi uses, right? Okay, so all that is interesting, but my favorite thing is probably the Oscar Wilde story. I think I talked about this in a video by Rinaldi a while back. I'm just going to rehash it because Oscar Wilde was a communicator coming through the direct voice mediumship of Leslie Flint back in like the 70s, and those audio recordings were actually some of the first seance recordings I ever listened to. And Flint, some people also criticize Flint, say Flint couldn't have been real. He must have been faking these voices for 40 years that he was doing this work and really not getting paid for it. But it was all a long haul scheme of ventriloquism. And anyone has the right to think that. I just don't personally think that. I've looked at the evidence. I've looked at the scientific investigations done on Flint, the one that was unfair to him. And there was some that they checked again, and they were like, we don't know where the heck these voices are coming from. So I think there's a lot of weight There's a lot of meat to go with the potatoes. There's a lot of meat on the bones when it comes to Flint. Anyway, so one of the communicators was Oscar Wilde, the late great playwright. And Wilde basically, he jokes a lot that he's enjoying a life of delicious, sinful activities on the other side, leaving it up to our imaginations. But this is Oscar Wilde talking, so, who knows what that might entail. I have a few guesses about that. And his audios are very funny, very clever. And everyone loves them, I think, who listens with an open mind. So Brenda really loved them too and began praying basically on her morning meditations to reach out to Wilde. And she would do this every day for a long time as an experiment. And then sure enough, she eventually confirmed through her deceased daughter, I believe through like an astral experience or clairaudience or some way that she was communicating, that there was like a strange British man showing up at Ashley's house because he was trying to figure out who this Brenda lady was and why this complete stranger was trying to contact her. Upon that happening, Wilde began hanging around and got to know Ashley and decided, well, it's very interesting what they're doing now with this image scanning stuff. And so he decided to go to the research station as well and get his face scanned. Now, here's the kicker. Here's why I think this was a real thing that happened, not just a story. Because Brenda didn't share with anyone those experiences about Oscar Wilde besides me and a couple of her friends when I was editing her book, Bonded by Love. And I thought, oh, what a great story, I wonder if this really happened. One day, I was going through the unidentified images put forth by Rinaldi, which I think she does once a month of all these. She doesn't know who these people are, and asks people who are on her Patreon list or on her subscription list if they can identify who they are. And I spotted this image, and I was like, there's no mistaking that chin. There's no mistaking those lips. There's no mistaking that 19th century dress style. That is Oscar Wilde. Popped into existence on Rinaldi's images with no awareness of Brenda having had that experience with Oscar Wilde. And they did not know who this image was until I wrote into Amy, the assistant, and identified it as Oscar Wilde. And so there you go. How that could be done, skeptical explanation of that, good luck. Because I don't have one, even as food for thought or playing devil's advocate. I don't know how they could read Brenda's mind unless Sonia has an army of spies and she has like a CIA level operation to get information about subjects, and somehow her experience leaked away from her couple of friends on Zoom and myself. I don't think so. So that, to me, is pretty strong evidence that Rinaldi is the real deal. I don't think I have much else left to say on this video, so thanks for watching. So are these paranormal images the real deal to you? Well, go ahead and comment down below and tell me what you think. As always, get involved at the Facebook group Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics, reddit.com/r//afterlife topics, or pick up a book like Understanding Life After Death, the Afterlife and Beyond on Amazon, or also Awakened by Death is a great book I recommend, or also Brenda's book, Bonded by Love. You can also check some of these links out at afterlifetopics.com. Thank you, everybody, for supporting this work and helping me get through this difficult time. Thank you, everybody, for all the vigils and all the work that's being done to improve our dear admin, John Adam Jackson's health and his fight. And unfortunately, unfortunately, that situation is not going to be an easy thing to keep reporting on. It's like we all know how it is. We've all had friends and family, I think, in hospitals before, and always checking to see what the latest news is from his family members at the hospital. and just being afraid that I'll have to come on here and report the worst. But what we're all gunning for is that Adam will suddenly improve quickly and then be out of there. And because I've known people who have been intubated for a month or longer and have had full recoveries. So but with this damn virus, you never know what direction it's going to take. He was actually improving quite a bit yesterday. And then today is when things declined again. But it's so unpredictable that it could just switch back around, and he could be recovering again by tomorrow. It just goes up and down. And I know that even from my own experiences with the virus, the way it just like fluctuates. One day it's like, oh, I'm getting better, and then you think you're better for like 3 or 4 days, and then he just gets hit again by it, and it just keeps coming back again and again, like a zombie virus almost. Not a literal zombie virus, but like it just keeps coming back from the dead. You think the virus is gone, you think it's not going to do any more damage, and then it comes back and it comes back. But eventually your body does kick it out. At least a lot of the times, not every time. Anyway, thanks everybody for listening to me. Or maybe I just had to get that off my chest. I'll talk to you guys soon.